The only poll that counts is the one that will take place tomorrow when people go out and cast their vote. And they will have a very clear choice before them tomorrow, which is about who do they want to see leading Britain in those Brexit negotiations, who do they want to see leading Britain into a brighter future. And the choice is between one of two people, because it's either going to be me or Jeremy Corbyn.
But it could also be a choice between somebody who's made one of the most dramatic U-turns in the course of an election campaign in history, that of so-called dementia care. Do you have no regrets about that?
No, we set out in our manifesto the great challenges that this country faces.
It was a mess. You could apologise for the U-turn.
John, we set out in our manifesto the great challenges that this country faces. I thought it was right to be open with people about those challenges and about how we will address them. One of those was the ageing society. It's great that people are living longer, but of course that does bring pressures on our social care system. Today, if you look at the social care system, people pay for care. If they're paying for residential care, the value of their house is taken into account. People can protect £23,000 of savings. Some people have to sell their house in their lifetime to pay those bills.
But beyond you, there's nobody who doesn't see it as a total U-turn. And frankly, if you're capable of U-turning on this scale in a campaign, you're capable of U-turning in the Brexit negotiations.
Well, I'll come on to the Brexit negotiations. If I just finish explaining the social care policy, what I want to do is take away that worry from people that they may have to sell their family home during their lifetime. What I'm doing is setting out a long-term sustainable solution for social care, which ensures that people can protect more of their savings to pass on to their children, £100,000 rather than £23,000, and that no one will have to sell their house during their lifetime. Now let's go on to the Brexit negotiations,
which you
you
will know,
raised.
going around the country, older people were really worried sick by this thing.
What I hear from people is that they see the value of being able to save £100,000 of savings, protect that money to pass on to their children, and that taking away the worry of how to pay the bills every month and ensuring that they don't have to sell their house in their lifetime. But it's also a policy which is fair across the generations. Now, you mentioned earlier in one of your questions to me the Brexit negotiations. I have a plan for those negotiations. I've set out
Not what you've
the
told
12...
us much about.
Oh, yes, I have told you about it, actually.
No, nobody knows any more about Brexit than they did before this.
I have set out the objectives that I have as Prime Minister, and if my party is back in government on Friday, the 12 objectives we have for those Brexit negotiations. It's about a deep and special partnership with the EU for the future. It's about a comprehensive free trade agreement so our businesses can continue to trade into Europe, continuing to cooperate on security and defence matters, ensuring that we're a country that is leading on science and innovation, a number of other objectives that I've set out. I've been very clear about my Brexit negotiation objectives. I think Jeremy Corbyn's had 7 different plans in 9 months.
The way you call them my Brexit negotiations defines exactly how you've run this campaign. As me, mine, me, Theresa May, big letters on the bus, tiny little Conservative name, all that. And that is perhaps one of the ways in which the campaign has gone wrong.
What people will be looking at when they vote, when they go to those polls tomorrow and cast their vote, is what sort of future do they want for this country? I'm optimistic about the opportunities that are open to us, but we need to grasp those opportunities. To do that, we need to get the Brexit negotiations right. We are talking about what sort of leadership people want for this country for the future. It's about who they want to see leading those Brexit negotiations, but also who has a vision for a brighter, stronger, more prosperous Britain. And that's what I do.
People have seen you as never before, up close. And the question really is, if you run the Brexit negotiations as indifferently as your campaign appears to have been run, they can be very worried.
When we look into the Brexit negotiations, what we want is strong and stable leadership. What we want is a clear plan going into those negotiations. And what we want is somebody who is willing, yes, to be difficult and to stand up for Britain. I will be doing that. My team will be doing that. We see the importance of delivering on the Brexit vote for the British people, but also of making a success of it. And I'm confident we will. And I'm confident we can build a better future for this country because I believe in Britain and I believe in the British people.
Well, now, quite a lot of the security failures that have occurred in these last few months can now be tracked back to your role as Home Secretary. And indeed, Mr. Corbyn actually said, frankly, if it had been a period in government, they might have asked you to resign.
What I did when I was Home Secretary
Well, did
was
you have any
ensured.
responsibility for what's gone wrong?
What I did when I was Home Secretary was ensure that I put into place extra powers for the police and the security services. I protected counter-terrorism policing. I ensured that the police had the powers that they need. I support the police in shooting to kill terrorists. On Saturday night, in that terrible incident in London Bridge, the police within 8 minutes had taken down those terrorist attackers.
Well, let me put a
Jeremy
final
Corbyn
question.
does not
Final
support
question
shoot to
you.
kill.
A final question, and that is, you seem happier to talk about eroding human rights rather than boosting security for the country.
We will be boosting security for the country, but to do that, we all need to look at the powers that the police may need in the future. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to say, let's look at making it easier to deport foreign terror suspects. Let's make longer sentences for people who are convicted of terrorism offences. Let's ensure that we can take more action to restrict the freedom and the movements of terror suspects when we know they are a threat. We have the evidence of that, but don't have the evidence to prosecute them in full in court. And if the human rights laws don't allow us to do that, then we should change those so that we can.
Prime Minister, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.